It starts with a question you're not supposed to ask in a quiet room. How can a person disappear inside a building that has cameras, doors, alarms, and people awake at every hour? The truth is that some disappearances don't begin when someone vanishes. They begin long before, quietly, invisibly, inside a moment no one notices until it's too late. Elisa Lam walked into the Cecil Hotel searching for a change of scenery, a breath of freedom, a pause for her mind. What she found instead was a story that would consume the internet, confuse investigators, and leave behind the most studied 4 minutes of hotel footage in history. But before the elevator, before the rooftop, before the headlines, there was a girl checking in with a smile that didn't look forced, a backpack that looked too heavy, and a travel plan she had rewritten half a dozen times in her journal. She didn't know that this building had a reputation. Most travelers didn't, and the hotel didn't advertise its past, its shadows, its tragedies, its forgotten hallways that once made guests whisper instead of speak. To Elisa, it was just a place to rest, a cheap room, a temporary pause. But every story has a hinge, a moment where something shifts, a detail no one understands until much later. For Elisa, that moment was about to begin.
You're watching Secret Stories.
Elisa's first days at the hotel were ordinary in every visible way. She explored the city, posted small updates online, bought books from local stores, and wrote long entries in her journal late at night. To anyone watching from the outside, she looked like a young traveler documenting a trip that was finally giving her a sense of independence. But beneath the surface, she felt something shifting. Her journal entries became less structured, her thoughts jumping from excitement to doubt in a matter of lines. She wrote about feeling foggy, about struggling to stay focused, about wanting clarity she couldn't quite reach. Inside the hotel, she began to feel watched, not by a person, but by the building itself. It was the kind of sensation people describe when something doesn't feel right, even if nothing is happening. A subtle tension, a pressure you can't explain. Guests later reported similar sensations, a strange silence in the hallways, a heaviness in the air, the feeling of being observed without knowing from where. But Elisa didn't tell anyone. She kept everything inside her notebook, pages filled with scattered handwriting that looked different from the months before. On the morning of January 31st, she went to the front desk and asked to change rooms, not because of the price, not because of noise, but because she said her roommates had complained about her behavior. The staff moved her to a single room, and that was the first official sign that something wasn't right. After moving to the single room, Elisa seemed calmer. For a brief moment, it looked as if the shift had helped. Her online posts became lighter, her photos more relaxed. She visited bookstores, took pictures of murals near the hotel, and even planned a visit to the Museum of Contemporary Art. But on the night of January 31st, something changed again. A guest staying 2 floors below reported hearing someone pacing back and forth, slowly at first, then faster, as if the person was anxious or trying to make a decision. Another guest said they heard water running for an unusually long time, long past midnight. No one connected these reports to Elisa at the time. The next morning, February 1st, Elisa was seen in a nearby shop buying gifts and souvenirs. She chatted briefly with the shopkeeper, smiled, and seemed perfectly normal. There was nothing unusual about her posture, her voice, or her behavior. But that was the last confirmed sighting of her outside the hotel. When she returned to the Cecil, no one saw her come back to her room. No one saw her in the hallways. No one noticed anything out of place. By the evening, her sister, back home in Canada, tried to contact her. No answer. Messages went unread. At first, the family thought it was just travel inconsistency. But as the hours passed, silence became worry. Inside the hotel, the atmosphere felt different. Guests reported lights flickering, water pressure dropping, and an unsettling quiet in the hallways that didn't match the busy streets outside. Some staff members later said they felt something was off that day, a strange weight in the air, but no one knew that Elisa had already vanished. When Elisa stopped responding to her family, the situation shifted from concern to urgency. Her parents contacted the Los Angeles Police Department, and by February 2nd, officers arrived at the hotel to begin a preliminary search. The staff led them through the hallways, the lobby, the upper floors, but nothing appeared unusual. Elisa's room was tidy, with her belongings neatly placed, her bed made, and her laptop resting exactly where she had left it. There were no signs of a struggle, no missing items, no forced entry. Her journal was on the desk, open as if she had planned to return to it soon. The police checked security footage from the main entrances, stairwells, and hallways. They saw guests coming and going, staff performing their usual routines, but no trace of Elisa after the morning of February 1st. It was as if she had slipped out of the building without using a door. The officers expanded the search. They checked the basement, the maintenance areas, the parking lot, even the fire escapes. Nothing. Meanwhile, guests began whispering about the police presence. Rumors spread quickly. Someone missing, someone young, someone staying on the upper floors. That same evening, the hotel staff made an announcement asking guests to report any unusual noises, sightings, or concerns. No one came forward. By February 3rd, the LAPD requested more resources. Search dogs were brought in. They guided them through multiple floors, stairwells, and common areas. But the dogs didn't catch a scent strong enough to follow. It made no sense. A person doesn't just vanish inside a building this size, not without leaving something behind. Unless they went somewhere no one thought to check. By February 4th, investigators expanded their efforts beyond the usual areas. They examined the elevators, the stairwells, the emergency exits, and even sections of the hotel normally closed to guests. Maintenance staff escorted them through boiler rooms, storage units, and old service hallways that most employees barely used anymore. Still, there was nothing. The hotel was cooperating, but its structure made the search difficult. It was an old building with blind corners, out-of-service rooms, and floors that didn't match the blueprints perfectly. Years of renovations had created hidden spaces, small gaps behind walls, sealed doors, forgotten maintenance shafts. The officers felt as though the building itself was resisting them, swallowing sound, swallowing clues. Meanwhile, Elisa's family arrived in Los Angeles. They walked the same hallways she had walked, talked to the same staff she had spoken to, and stood in the same lobby where she had last been seen. They showed photos of her to guests, hoping someone had noticed something. Most people shook their heads. Some said they recognized her picture, but not from the hotel, only from the missing posters now taped around the neighborhood. The investigation stalled. Days were passing with no answers. And then the hotel began receiving new complaints that seemed unrelated at first. Guests said the water in their rooms had a strange taste, metallic, bitter, like old pipes. Some said the water pressure was too low, barely enough to shower. Others said the water coming from the tap looked cloudy. At first, the staff thought it was a plumbing issue, but the timing would soon matter, more than anyone wanted to imagine. By February 5th, officers realized they had reached a dead end. They had searched every accessible part of the hotel, every hallway, every service area, every floor guests were allowed to enter. But something felt unfinished, as if they were circling the answer without touching it. So they changed their strategy. If Elisa hadn't left the hotel and if she wasn't anywhere inside the areas already searched, then she had to be in a place no one had thought to check. A place not meant for guests. A place most employees themselves rarely visited. The roof. Technically, the rooftop was supposed to be locked and alarmed. Guests weren't allowed up there. But in a building this old, and with years of questionable maintenance, nothing could be assumed. 2 officers and a hotel employee made their way up the final staircase, expecting to find nothing but machinery, ventilation units, and empty concrete. What they didn't expect was silence. Not the normal kind. The rooftop had always been loud, with traffic from the street and machinery humming. This time it felt muted. Still, the air was colder despite the afternoon sun. From the edge of the rooftop, 4 large water tanks stood side by side. Tall, heavy, decades old. each one filled with thousands of gallons of water used by the entire building. At first glance, everything looked normal. The tanks were sealed, the metal ladders untouched, and no signs of tampering were visible. But something caught the maintenance workers' attention, a detail small enough to miss but strange enough not to ignore. One of the lids wasn't sitting the way it usually did. The maintenance worker stepped closer to the tank, squinting under the sunlight to get a better look. From the ground, the lid didn't look fully open, but it didn't look properly closed either. It was tilted, shifted just slightly out of place, as if someone had lifted it and hadn't set it back down right. "Has it always been like that?" one of the officers asked. The worker hesitated. "No, it shouldn't be." A chill moved through the group, subtle, but unmistakable. The officer climbed partway up the metal ladder, steadying himself as the cold air brushed against his face. He stopped halfway, looked down into the tank, and saw nothing. Just darkness, water, a shadow that didn't mean anything on its own. But something felt wrong. "Let's open it fully," he said. The worker climbed up beside him and pushed the lid back. The metal groaned, scraping against rust and years of wear. Then everything froze. Floating just beneath the surface of the water was a shape, a pale shape, motionless. The officer didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. The worker covered his mouth. It took several seconds, long, heavy seconds, before the officer finally whispered, "There's someone inside." No one needed to ask who. They all knew. They had found Elisa Lam, and the questions they already couldn't answer were about to multiply. The rooftop was sealed off within minutes. Officers radioed for backup, and soon the entire area was surrounded with bright yellow tape that fluttered in the wind. Investigators, forensic teams, and supervisors climbed the narrow stairs one by one, each arriving with the same expression, a look caught between disbelief and dread. The tank was drained slowly, carefully, to preserve whatever evidence might be inside. As the water lowered, the pale shape became unmistakable. A human body, curled slightly, suspended in the cold darkness. When the tank was empty enough, personnel used a winch to lift her out, a process that took time, strength, and silence. Elisa's body was heavier than expected, waterlogged from nearly 3 weeks submerged. Her clothes floated separately in the tank, drifting aimlessly near the bottom. No one spoke as her body was placed gently on a stretcher. Even the wind felt quieter, as if the rooftop itself understood the gravity of the moment. After the removal, investigators circled the tank, searching for clues. There were no footprints nearby, no fingerprints, no signs of forced entry on the tank or the lid. The ladder leading up to the tank was old and stiff, with no fresh scratches or marks. Nothing suggested someone else had been there. But nothing suggested Elisa had climbed it herself either. Then came the detail that turned the entire case upside down. To reach the top of the tank, Elisa would have needed to open the rooftop door, a door that was locked, a door that was supposed to trigger an alarm the moment it opened. But according to the hotel, no alarm had gone off. Not once. The discovery of Elisa's body should have brought answers. Instead, it created more questions. Questions no one could fit neatly into a single explanation. Investigators gathered in a small room on the 12th floor, reviewing notes, timelines, and statements. Everything pointed to a contradiction. Elisa was found in a location she shouldn't have been able to access, using a route she shouldn't have been able to take, under circumstances that didn't align with what the hotel claimed. The rooftop door remained at the center of the puzzle. The alarm system wasn't malfunctioning. Technicians confirmed that. If the door had been opened, staff at the front desk would have heard it instantly. Yet no one did. Even if Elisa had somehow reached the rooftop through another route, there was still the matter of the tank. The opening was heavy, the tank was tall, the climb was difficult, and Elisa was not wearing her clothes when she was found. Her clothing being inside the tank raised another troubling question. Did she remove them herself? Or were they removed before she entered? Neither answer explained everything. The autopsy complicated things even further. There were no signs of physical assault, no bruises consistent with being restrained, No injuries suggesting a fall or a violent encounter. The official cause of death was labeled as accidental drowning, but even investigators admitted privately that the case didn't feel accidental at all. The report offered closure on paper, but not in reality. It satisfied the requirements of bureaucracy, not the requirements of logic. And still missing from the public record was any explanation of what happened before the rooftop. What happened in the elevator? The elevator footage was released to the public on February 14th. At first, the LAPD expected it to generate leads. Someone might recognize her or remember seeing her in the hotel. But what happened instead was something no one predicted. Millions of people watched the video. Millions more analyzed it. And almost immediately, the internet erupted with theories. In the footage, Elisa enters the elevator calmly at first. She presses several buttons. So many that some viewers believe she was trying to make the elevator move to any floor that would take her away from something. But the elevator doesn't move. She steps back into the corner, waiting. Nothing happens. Then she leans forward, looks out into the hallway, steps out, steps back in. Her movements become sharper, more urgent, as though she's reacting to something we cannot see. Her hands make unusual motions. Some call them frantic, others call them deliberate. It looks like she's feeling the air or speaking to someone, or trying to convey something impossible to understand without context. Then she steps out entirely, and the elevator doors remain open the entire time, refusing to close until long after she's gone. Viewers slowed the footage, zoomed in, enhanced the contrast, trying to catch even the smallest detail. A shadow, a reflection, a shape at the edge of the frame. Some swore they saw another foot outside the elevator. Others claimed they saw a hand pulling her away. But digital artifacts can play tricks on the mind. Still, there was one odd thing investigators refused to explain. There were missing frames. The footage had cuts, jumps in time, seconds gone, actions incomplete. The official explanation was that the hotel's system sometimes corrupted files, but the timing of the cuts felt deliberate. And without those missing seconds, we will never know what Elisa saw, or thought she saw, in that hallway. The public reaction to the elevator footage was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, people around the world began creating detailed breakdowns, slowing the video, stabilizing it, overlaying graphics, drawing outlines around her hands to analyze angles and movements. Some viewers argued she was hiding from someone. Others believed she was trying to communicate with an unseen presence. A few suggested she might have been experiencing a mental health episode. But none of these explanations accounted for the technical inconsistencies in the video itself. Why were there missing frames? Why did the elevator fail to close its doors for nearly 2 minutes? Why did it suddenly function normally the moment she left? Technicians tested the elevator afterward. It worked perfectly. The footage only deepened the mystery. But while millions focused on interpreting her gestures, far fewer noticed something else, something subtle but important. Elisa keeps looking to her left, into the hallway. Not down the hall, not around the corner, directly at something or someone, positioned just outside the camera's view. Her posture changes each time she looks. Her shoulders tighten. Her breathing appears faster. Her movements become less controlled. Something in that hallway affected her. Whether it was a real person, a perceived threat, or a moment of distorted fear, the camera could not tell us. It only captured her reaction, not the cause. And then there was the strange detail noted by several analysts. At one moment, Elisa's reflection on the elevator door doesn't match the timing of her movements. It is off by a fraction of a second, just enough to unsettle viewers. Some say it's compression, some say it's digital ghosting, others say it shouldn't happen at all. Whatever the reason, it fed into the growing belief that the most important part of the video was the part we weren't seeing. While the world dissected the elevator footage, investigators returned to the physical evidence, hoping facts would reveal what speculation could not. They reviewed the rooftop again, the water tanks, the ladders, the door mechanism. Every detail was measured, photographed, documented. The alarm system was tested repeatedly. Each time it triggered exactly as designed. Loud, immediate, impossible to ignore. And yet no staff member recalled hearing it at any point during Elisa's disappearance. Next, they examined the tank's lid. It was heavy, too heavy, some argued, for Elisa to lift alone. When investigators tried to recreate the motion, even with dry metal and stable footing, it required effort and leverage. Inside the tank, fingerprints were nearly impossible to collect due to the water, but the exterior showed nothing. No smudges, no grip marks, no signs of someone climbing quickly or struggling to maintain balance. Investigators tried to reenact the climb exactly as it would have occurred. Each attempt left scuff marks, marks that were not present on the tank when Elisa was found. Then there was the height. Climbing the ladder was one challenge. Stepping into the opening was another, but closing the lid afterward from the inside was physically impossible, if the lid was found closed, which depends on who you believe. Some hotel employees swore the lid was open. Others insisted it had been closed when they first saw it. Even the official reports contradicted one another. Meanwhile, the autopsy revealed another strange detail. Elisa had no bruises on her knees, elbows, or feet. Injuries one would expect from climbing a rough metal ladder barefoot. It was as if she had arrived inside the tank, without the struggle that should have left marks on her body. And that made the case even more unsettling. As the inconsistencies grew, investigators revisited Elisa's digital footprint. Her social media posts, her emails, her blog entries, and the drafts she never published were analyzed line by line. They found no threats, no messages from strangers, no signs that someone had been following her, online or in person. Her final posts sounded introspective, hopeful in some moments, scattered in others. But nothing suggested fear. Nothing suggested she believed someone wanted to harm her. Next, detectives spoke again with her family. They described Elisa as bright, curious, compassionate, someone who struggled at times but who always communicated clearly when she needed help. The timeline showed no signs of a prolonged mental break. Her behavior in the shop the day before seemed normal. Her travel plans remained consistent. She had bought gifts. She had written postcards. People experiencing severe disorientation don't usually make practical plans for the days ahead. Then there was the most puzzling detail of all. Elisa had checked out books from the library shortly before her disappearance. Books she intended to return. People planning to hurt themselves don't make library schedules. The evidence pointed in two directions at once. She seemed stable, grounded, even purposeful, yet her behavior in the elevator appeared erratic and distressed. It was as if two different versions of Elisa existed in the final days of her life. Investigators were left with a chilling possibility. Something changed very suddenly, and whatever that something was, it happened inside the hotel. Investigators began interviewing hotel staff again, this time with more precise questions. They asked about unusual maintenance requests, unexpected visitors, or employees who had access to restricted areas. Most staff members were cooperative. Some were nervous. A few seemed genuinely shaken by the discovery on the rooftop. One employee mentioned something investigators hadn't heard before. Sometimes the fire escape doors don't latch properly. This caught everyone's attention. If a fire escape door failed to close completely, it might not trigger the building's alarm. It would look locked from a distance, but actually remain slightly ajar. Could Elisa have accessed the rooftop through a fire escape? Technically, yes. But practically, the climb was dangerous. Metal steps, exposed piping, narrow platforms, and Elisa had no history of risky behavior. Another staff member recalled seeing Elisa in the lobby shortly before she disappeared. They said she seemed lost in thought, almost like she was walking on autopilot. But crucially, no one recalled seeing her after that. Then came a detail from an older maintenance worker. He mentioned that the rooftop door had malfunctioned in the past, years before, causing false alarms. Has it malfunctioned recently? Investigators asked. He hesitated. I don't know, but the system is old, really old. Still, there was no record of alarms, false or otherwise, during the days Elisa disappeared. And the biggest problem remained. Even if she reached the rooftop without triggering the alarm, how did she get into the tank? How did she open the lid? How did she remove her clothes? Why were there no marks on her body from climbing? Why were there no fingerprints anywhere? The deeper investigators looked, the more the case refused to make sense. In the days following the discovery, the public's interest intensified. People traveled to the hotel hoping to stand in the same elevator, walk the same hallways, or reach the rooftop, though access was now strictly forbidden. Journalists requested interviews with staff, but most employees declined. The hotel's management released a short statement offering condolences to the family, and nothing more. Behind the scenes, investigators reviewed every second of footage from the days surrounding Elisa's disappearance. Hundreds of hours, different angles, alternate entrances. They were looking for even the slightest sign of another person who might have crossed paths with her. But the cameras revealed something unexpected. Elisa spent long stretches of time alone. She wandered hallways without interacting with anyone. She rode the elevator at odd hours. She appeared and disappeared between blind spots in the building's outdated camera system. In several clips, she walked with purpose, head down, arms close to her sides, like someone deep in thought. But in others, she looked disoriented, pausing suddenly as if listening to something. There was one moment, recorded late at night, that investigators found particularly strange. Elisa stood completely still at the end of a hallway, not moving for nearly a minute. She didn't look at the camera. She didn't turn her head. She just stood there. Then she walked away. No one ever determined what she was waiting for, or what she thought she heard. The absence of other people in the footage raised another troubling possibility. Whatever affected Elisa that night might not have been a person. As investigators continued piecing together Elisa's final movements, they began constructing a timeline, a precise, minute-by-minute reconstruction of her last known hours inside the hotel. But instead of bringing clarity, the timeline revealed gaps. Long stretches where Elisa wasn't seen on any camera, moments where she should have appeared in the hallway, but didn't, intervals between elevator activity that made no sense based on normal guest traffic. At 12:45 a.m., Elisa was seen walking toward the elevator area. At 12:59 a.m., the infamous elevator footage was recorded. But between those times, there was a 14-minute window with no visual record of her movement. Where did she go in those 14 minutes? The hotel had no answer. More strangely, motion-activated hallway lights that normally detected even the slightest movement did not switch on during certain time periods when Elisa should have passed through. It was as if she moved through parts of the hotel without triggering anything. Then investigators found something even more unusual. A guest staying on the same floor reported hearing a soft tapping sound coming from the hallway shortly after midnight. Not footsteps, not voices. Tapping. Slow. Rhythmic. When asked to describe it, the guest said, "It sounded like someone tapping the wall, or tapping their fingers on metal." She assumed it was maintenance work, but no maintenance was scheduled that night, and no staff member reported being on that floor. Another guest on a different floor claimed they heard water running long before anyone discovered the issue with the tank. Yet according to hotel logs, no rooms on that floor had recorded water usage at that time. These little inconsistencies, minor on their own, started forming a pattern suggesting that Elisa was moving through the hotel in a way no one could account for, as if she were following something, or searching for something, or escaping something only she could perceive. As investigators tried to rebuild Elisa's final hours, they faced another problem. Staff recollections didn't always match. One front desk employee insisted Elisa looked calm the last time she was seen. Another said she appeared distracted, almost anxious. A housekeeper remembered her room being messy but not alarming, while another described the same space as unusually tidy. Small contradictions, but contradictions nonetheless. A staff member from maintenance added something unexpected. He claimed to have heard footsteps on the roof on the night Elisa disappeared. Not loud ones, not hurried. Just soft, steady steps moving across the concrete. When investigators asked why he didn't report it, he shrugged. "I thought it was the wind," he said. "Sometimes things shift up there. But the wind doesn't make footsteps. and it doesn't make the kind of pattern he described. Then came a stranger detail. Another employee, one who rarely spoke to investigators, finally agreed to an interview. She described something that had been bothering her since the night Elisa went missing. "When I walked past the elevator around 1 a.m, she said, "I felt cold. Not a draft, not air conditioning, just cold, like stepping into a different room." She paused, hesitating. "And I heard something, a sound like someone whispering, but there was nobody there." When investigators pressed her, she clarified, "It wasn't a voice I understood, more like movement, breathing, something alive." She said she didn't report it because she feared sounding irrational, and yet her recollection matched the timing of the elevator footage perfectly. The elevator, the hallway, the strange cold, the feeling of something unseen. Piece by piece, investigators realized something unsettling. There were too many small, eerie details to ignore, and none of them fit neatly into a rational explanation. Whatever Elisa experienced that night, she experienced it alone. As investigators gathered everything they had, footage, interviews, reports, they faced a persistent truth. Every explanation solved one part of the case, but created a new contradiction somewhere else. If Elisa climbed to the rooftop on her own, why was there no evidence of the physical struggle required to reach the tank? If she removed her own clothes, why were they found in the water but not on her body? If the rooftop door never triggered an alarm, how did she get there without anyone noticing? If someone else was involved, where were the signs? No footprints, no fingerprints, no witnesses, no video evidence. It was a puzzle with missing pieces, pieces no one was sure ever existed. One detective described the case in his notes as a maze that leads back to the beginning no matter which path you take. Another wrote, "This is the first time in my career where every answer feels like a wrong answer." Meanwhile, online communities built elaborate theories. Ghost stories tied to the hotel's dark history, conspiracies about contaminated water, speculations about someone following her, even paranormal interpretations of the elevator footage. But none of these theories matched the physical evidence, and none of them explained everything. In fact, the more theories emerged, the more investigators realized something important. People were searching for meaning in a case where meaning might never be clear. But there was one last detail that investigators kept returning to. Something small, almost insignificant, but impossible to ignore. Elisa's keycard. Her keycard showed that her door had been opened multiple times on the night she disappeared, but there was no record of her entering afterward, no record of her leaving. The door log simply stopped, as if the system lost track of her completely, as if, at some point that night, Elisa slipped out of the hotel's measurements of reality, before anyone realized she was gone. In the months following the case, the official narrative remained unchanged. Elisa Lam drowned accidentally, but the people who spent the most time investigating, detectives, analysts, journalists, agreed on something quietly, privately. The story didn't feel complete. The physical evidence contradicted itself. The timeline broke in places no one could repair. The security footage raised more questions than answers, and the behavior documented in the elevator defied easy interpretation. Some investigators believed Elisa experienced a sudden, intense psychological break. Others argued that the signs pointed to disorientation triggered by an unknown factor. A few thought she might have been reacting to something that didn't appear on camera. No one could explain how she reached the roof without detection. No one could explain how she opened the water tank alone. No one could explain the missing seconds in the footage. No one could explain the silent hallways, the strange tapping, the cold air, the malfunctioning details that weren't supposed to malfunction. It was a case where every detail mattered, and yet none of them connected. The Cecil Hotel continued operating for years afterward, though the rooftop was permanently sealed. Visitors still asked about the case. Some came specifically because of it. And the elevator, the one Elisa stood in during her final recording, became an unofficial landmark, a place people entered just to feel the atmosphere. Many claimed they felt nothing. Others said they felt watched. A few insisted they felt the same sudden drop in temperature, the same one described by the staff member who passed by that night. Whether coincidence or something more, the building carried the memory of Elisa's final moments like a shadow, a presence that lingered, a question that refused to rest. In the end, the case of Elisa Lam became more than a mystery. It became a mirror, reflecting the limits of what we can understand, and the boundaries we're uncomfortable admitting exist. People wanted closure, a clear cause, a final explanation that tied every thread together, but some stories refused to be tied. Elisa's final known moments were captured on a camera meant for safety, a routine device installed to watch over hallways and empty spaces. Yet what it recorded felt anything but routine. A girl pressing buttons, stepping in and out, gesturing at something no one else could see, trying to find a floor the elevator wouldn't take her to, and when she walked away from that elevator, the story walked with her. Her disappearance was not a clean narrative. It wasn't a straight line. It was a series of moments, small, disjointed, fragile, each raising questions that outlived the investigation. Why did she behave that way? Where did she go in the minutes no camera captured? How did she reach a rooftop she shouldn't have accessed? How did she enter a tank she shouldn't have been able to open? And why did so many tiny details, the tapping, the cold air, the silence, the glitches, feel like pieces of a puzzle missing the picture on the box? Some mysteries are not unsolved because people lack intelligence or effort. They remain unsolved because reality doesn't always behave the way we expect it to. Elisa Lam's story is one of those. Her life was real, her family's grief was real, and the questions she left behind remain a reminder that even in a world filled with cameras, sensors, alarms, and evidence, a person can still slip through the cracks, not into darkness, not into superstition, but into uncertainty, the kind that lingers long after the lights turn back on. What happened to Elisa in the Cecil Hotel may never be fully understood, but the last recording she left behind continues to echo, inviting the same question over and over. What do you see when you watch the final moments of someone who didn't know they were final? There is no right answer, only the quiet truth that some stories end without explanation, and some doors close without telling us what walked through them.
There's more waiting for you. Touch the playlist that just appeared and follow it in.